What a gem we have for you today. Gem. G-E-M. Also pronounced gem. Hi, it's Matthew Blades, and welcome to Learn from People Who Lived It. Dr. Annamarie, we released her episode last week, and it was so freaking fabulous, and I encourage everybody to go back and listen to it if you can. If you only have 5 minutes to spend with our podcast, then I'm glad you're here. That's the reason I make these quick tips episodes. So every week I'm going to release a full one. Then the next week I'll release a very short version of it so you get the idea of what we were talking about. Now, Dr. Annamarie's journey starts off with a bit of a mental health battle and a psychiatrist who really did her dirty in every way, shape, and form. But she's bounced back from it. She's come back from it. Now she's a doc herself, helping other people. And one of the things that she talked about in this episode was the power of changing your environment when you don't feel mentally well.
You have to change your environment. This is something that I did when I would really find myself getting depressed at night as the sun was going down, just feeling like this doom and gloom. And my go-to was just eating like a carton of ice cream. And so what I started to do is I would physically feel this feeling that I did not like. And so then I would go to the ice cream. Well, that wasn't a very good habit to have. So what I started to do is, okay, the moment I felt
Depends on what flavor it is.
Yeah, I know, right?
What flavor it is.
Dip, thank you. So I would recognize that was happening. And what I would do is I would go outside and I would go for a walk. Or I would call somebody like my sister or my friend just to be like, hey, what's going on with you? Like, I wouldn't call them to tell them how I was feeling, because I found that the more I talked about how crappy I felt, the more crappy I felt. So I was doing a lot of this stuff just on my own. I didn't have a therapist. I didn't have the tools. Like, this was like a self-discovery thing that I was doing. And I found that anytime I would get that feeling, when I would change my environment and I would be able to either listen to a good song, talk to someone, get outside, that would start to rewire and shift that for me.
The other fantastic part of this podcast was when Dr. David Lycan and I got into this discussion about to take medication or to not take medication. And I love having Dave on this podcast because of this specific response to that question. Pay attention. It's not about the medicine.
And it's way more complicated than just giving a pill. Medications have a role, potentially, for some people. And specifically, if you're stuck, the medication can help to get you unstuck. The way I think of it is, you have certain thresholds in the brain. So if you're going to engage with something or not engage with something, that's a threshold. And your brain kind of works with analog inputs, but digital outputs. There's a lot of different influences that kind of sway you or move you in one direction or another. But ultimately, when it comes down to the decision, it's going to be either a yes or a no, with all of these different inputs kind of leaning you one way, leaning you the other way, until you finally flip that switch. And if you're stuck in a real severe depression, the threshold for yes is so high that a lot of times you're missing out on opportunities to engage with things that would normally make you feel good and help to reinforce a positive direction. And if you're that stuck, medication can change the threshold in a way that it's more easy to engage in things. But the happiness doesn't come from the pill. The happiness comes from having meaningful relationships in your life, having things that you're looking forward to, having things that you're accomplishing and achieving. That's where the happiness comes from. And the medication is only one small part in getting there. It frustrates me that a lot of my colleagues don't have that kind of holistic approach to it.
He's so good. Okay, I want to play one last clip for you before you and I bug out of this episode. Dr. Annamarie Frank has a book called Stop Bullying Yourself. And so the natural question for me was, why do we bully ourselves? And I love this answer because of one of the authors she cites at the end. Listen to this.
Well, I think it goes back to our programming from when we're younger. But then if you look at evolution, our brains are programmed already to scan the world to find what's wrong so we can stay safe and stay alive. So if you combine that biological, innate, evolutionary switch that's on in all of us, that's already happening. Now pile on top of that feelings of being picked on, being bullied, being left out, messing up, and somebody just screams at you and you didn't even realize you made a mistake, and now you realize, gosh, I thought I did something right, but I guess I'm always wrong. Like, we download all of these things and we make sense of them as a child, and then they follow us into adulthood, and our inner bully, that voice inside our head, says, thank you, this is fuel to my fire. And it will tell you, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, people don't like you, you're screwing up, you need to try harder because you didn't do good enough. I know you won that award, but like, what if someone comes along and wins it next year and you don't do as good? And so it is literally just piling up. And so this is where we get to go into that inner bully and say, oh, I see you, but I don't recognize you. And one of my favorite authors is Michael Singer.
Oh, go ahead and bring it all here.
Yes.
Love everything he does.
So when I think of that inner bully in my mind, when I read his book, The Untethered Soul, he's
Game
like,
changer.
Game changer. He's like, you are not that voice. You are the one that is witnessing that voice. And in that moment, it was like, my brain was like, wow.
It is like, wow, he's such a fantastic author. And if you've not read The Untethered Soul yet, it's certainly one I recommend everybody pick up at least one time. Okay, let's wrap things up here. As you know, this is a quick version of the podcast that was just released last week. So if you want to dive deeper with Dr. Anna and Dr. Dave and not Dr. Matthew Blades, you can listen to the last episode that was released before this one, okay? Have a great day. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Thank you for sharing this with a friend. And thank you for being a part of our Learn from People Who Lived It community. Have a wonderful day.